Last night, economics correspondent Paul Salmon took us inside a community college program that trains the manufacturing workers of tomorrow. In part two tonight, we hear from employers about their efforts to recruit new talent and whether a manufacturing renaissance is really underway.
We're really suffering right now.
Suffering from a lack of workers, says Rob Lenardi, who runs operations for Meyer Tool in suburban Cincinnati. And I've been hearing the same complaint for years.
The work is there.
Lori Joyce, a few years ago, of Concrete Pros in northern Ohio.
We just need the workers.
The despairing employer sound bites have been legion. And so too the optimistic bites from programs I've covered over the years that are trying to address the problem. For example, even 10 years ago, South Carolina's BMW plant was doing all it could, according to one of its new recruits.
They pay for your college, first of all, so you will get a degree when you're done. You make good money while going to college. I just could not see anybody turning it down, really.
And yet, most young people do.
There's a vacuum there, and we are always on the lookout for bringing people in. And even we're starting from scratch in some cases, people had no idea what they were getting into, and they've come along really well.
So America's manufacturers still can't find enough workers, despite the promise of President-elect Donald Trump.
This new American industrialism will create millions and millions of jobs, massively raise wages for American workers, and make the United States into a manufacturing powerhouse like it used to be many years ago.
Manufacturing has been touted as the next big thing in jobs by both parties. All of America, one big makerspace, as in the past, when factory workers made up something like a third of the labor force. That number is now down to less than 10%, but there are some 19 million working-age men out of the workforce entirely, not having even looked for a job in the past 12 months. A manufacturing revival, it's argued, will lure many of them back to work. Men without a college degree promised higher-paying jobs, just waiting to be filled.
I was just driving past, going down the road. I saw a big sign saying that they were hiring, basically, and decided to put my name in and work out.
Indeed, Andrew Holloway, who quit college, got paid while training on the job at Meyer Tool. And it's a sophisticated gig.
We got CMMs here probing down to a 10,000th of an inch.
CMMs, coordinate measuring machines, and you don't need to go to college to operate one.
I got here through a referral program.
Same for Nicolani Hall, a logistics coordinator, before a friend referred him to Meyer. Schooling?
I think the best experience you can get is more hands-on compared to learning in a classroom.
Moreover, there's a strategic reason to revive manufacturing in America.
We're seeing the recognition of vulnerabilities of global supply chains.
Ryan Augsburger, head of the Ohio Manufacturers Association.
And it seems to be driving more, we call it reshoring, but it's investment that was offshored a generation ago back into the U.S.
So the jobs will be there, says Joe Resco, supervisor at noisy metal manufacturer Worthington Enterprises. Earplugs are standard issue.
I believe we'll continue to grow. There's a lot of people out there that want to come in and contribute to good companies, and in America, they want that to happen, right?
Maybe, but the company sure has to work hard to recruit them.
We created great partnerships with our local high schools. We actually have signing day, if you've seen the college athlete that's signed, and then we employ them inside our businesses, inside our factories, and we promise them an opportunity for a job.
And because kids are into video games,
we do virtual reality, the virtual glasses. We take the local high schools and show them the manufacturing facility.
But why are Ohio's firms only now making such strenuous efforts? I asked the head of the Manufacturers Association. It's because they're more desperate?
I think that the desperation has brought them together, yeah.
But if they build it, will the kids come? These are seniors on the welding track at Kilgore High School in East Texas oil country. But with all the high-paying oil-related jobs, why not more kids in the program?
They might not know how many opportunities you can get from that line of work.
Chelsea Rocha.
And they may not know the benefits of, going into manufacturing.
I think you got to find the right ones that still have that motivation.
Morgan Dowell.
As a whole, I think a lot of them are less motivated, or they're motivated towards an easier job.
Zevin Dent agrees.
For my generation, I think people, to be honest with you, I think people have less motivation to work because there's so many other avenues of work that they could do online.
Like they see online, says Kiefer Hunter.
On social media, I see stuff where people make millions of dollars just off a phone or a computer, and that seems like the easier way to go.
Teacher Misty Lewis says the mood is shifting some, at least in Kilgore.
And for welding specifically, we've got teachers that were in the industry and now they're teaching. They do a great job of telling our kids, this is where you can go. These are the companies. I think that's why it's growing.
In most places, however, it doesn't seem to be growing fast enough, especially given all the baby boomers aging out of the manufacturing workforce. But maybe a worker shortage won't be a problem if AI and robots rush in where young folks prefer not to tread. At Worthington Enterprises, for instance.
We can automate, and we continue to look to automate.
And thus the age-old question, which I put to Stanford's Eric Brynjolfsson.
I've always been frustrated by this.
The idea that high tech will eventually eliminate manufacturing jobs entirely.
It's probably the most common question I get is, are robots going to eat all the jobs? And I always say no. I do point out that technology has always been destroying jobs and always creating jobs. But that second part is important, that there's this dynamism in the U.S. economy. As some jobs get automated, new jobs get created. And right now, there's no shortage of demand for labor. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Okay, too many old folks hanging it up, not enough young people or even robots to replace them. A manufacturing renaissance without the workers to sustain it? Not so fast, says economist Robert Lawrence. The historical data suggests no such revival, as he documents in his new book, Behind the Curve.
As countries develop economically, the share of manufacturing jobs tends to rise, and then it peaks.
So the long-term outlook might not favor factory jobs after all, because historically, they peaked long ago.
After that, there's a downward trend in manufacturing employment shares. And this isn't just true of the United States. It's true of most countries, almost every developed country in the world.
And in fact, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has projected the number of manufacturing jobs to be added over the next 8 years, less than 1%.
We'll lead an American manufacturing boom. We're going to have a manufacturing boom.
But President-elect Trump, like the Democrats before him, is betting otherwise. Our friends at Meyer Tool make life-or-death jet engine parts tooled so precisely they can't even be off by 1,000th of a human hair. But they depend on foreign-made machines.
These are Japanese machines, Stuart, making parts for a Pratt & Whitney's geared turbofan engine, which goes into an Airbus A320neo jet, which is made in France. It's a global community working on specific machine components. So right now, if I come to you and say, hey, look, let's make a Makino machine here in America, how long before we could pull that off? And do we possibly have enough human power now coming out of schools? It's going to take a lot of engineering talent to be developed to design equipment like that. It would take 5-6 years easily.
Assuming there's a job surge in manufacturing at all. For the PBS NewsHour, Paul Salmon in Kentucky and Ohio.